Now that you're retired, you thought you were done, right? Nope, you're just getting started. Hey there, it's Trisha, Trisha in her 60s. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm really glad that you're here. I wanted to talk about not just my retirement, but retirement in general. Because, when you stop working, you just hear about, how wonderful it is to stop working and everything, and the joy and the freedom and all that, which is true, which is 100% true. But what nobody actually talks about, and this is something I actually had to learn myself, is the other side of it called unlearning. And unlearning is a real thing. I mean, for decades, we've been conditioned to live a certain way. We wake up when the alarm rings, we get dressed because that's what work allows, and you sit in traffic if you have to drive. And every day, your life is on a schedule that is probably not your own schedule. Then one day it just, boop, stops. No alarm clock, no more meetings, no more deadlines. Oh, no managers. But that doesn't happen in your mind though, right away. Your brain doesn't get the memo. Your body and your brain are still running on the corporate clock that you've had, and it's going to for a while. And it's not even the same feeling that you might get, if you were laid off or left a job, before you go back to another one. It's totally different about that. The first thing you have to unlearn is the constant feeling of obligation. And this is where I am right now, because I'm at the beginning here. For years you're taught that your value is your productivity. At least that's my perception of it. The more you do, the more you're worth. I know for myself, I was a high achiever for for over 40 years. And I was always doing more and then taking on more responsibility. Gee whiz, in 2020, I worked 2,800 hours. And usually a regular 40-hour work week is less than like 2,100 hours. So I just did that just to keep up with the unreasonable demands of the job I had at the time. So now it's just hard to sit back and not feel like I have to be doing something. Or in my case, there's just so much work that even stopping for a little bit, I just wasn't used to that. I'd feel like, I was slacking off because everyone else is working. So you're not on the clock anymore, but your internal clock is still is still trying to get you to be busy and be productive. So you have to tell it to shut up. Just tell it to shut up. It's okay. You've worked hard. You've given it your all, and it's okay to just be. Wow. Yeah, it's okay to just be. I know it's strange, and it's very strange for me, but it's a great feeling, but it is still a very strange feeling for me. And like I said, this is where I am since I finally made my decision, to actually retire just a few weeks ago. And then there's the whole workplace persona. Let's be honest, we all have one. The person that you are in a meeting, if you're standing up for your team, or anything that you're having to do, for work is probably a little different from the person that you are at home on the sofa, petting your dog. And for years, you've put on this professional mask. You've had to watch your tone in meetings, as I was told to by at least one misogynistic manager. And you have to play by certain rules that don't always feel right. Well, in retirement, you have to unlearn that professional mask. You can be just you all the time. It's an adjustment, and it is a good one. It is. And if you are a woman who has had to put up with certain behaviors and attitudes, basically, bad behavior because you needed the job, or it was just part of the culture. And by the way, if it was part of the culture, I hope you have put that way far behind you a long time ago. You don't have to put up with that or any of that anymore. If a man tells you to watch your tone because you are sounding like a smart and capable woman, you have my permission to tell him where to go. Your social structure is also another big thing. Your job was a huge part of your social life, whether you realize it or not. You've got colleagues, managers, and people that you interact with daily, even if it's just, over Teams or Zoom or Slack or whatever program you used for your video conferencing. Some of those can become your best friends. Some can become lovers and boyfriends. And some of my peers one day were peers one day, and then they were direct reports the next. So, that's all something that changes. In retirement, all of that disappears. You have to unlearn that social interaction is just going to happen to you. Suddenly, you have to be deliberate about it. And you've got to reach out to old friends or find new friends or friend groups and put yourself out there in a way you probably haven't done, gee whiz, in a long time, probably since maybe even high school or college, Now, conversely, if you are more of an introvert like me, it's going to be so freeing not to have to go to corporate events or conventions, if you're required to do that kind of stuff. Or, everyone's going to have a happy hour or whatever. You don't have to do that. And you don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't have to explain to busybodies what you did or did not do over the weekend. That's a lot right there. Now, of course, there is the money thing. Depending on what your income bracket was, that could be a huge unlearning all in itself. If you were used to a high earning job where you maybe are used to a certain kind of lifestyle, maybe you liked going out to eat a lot, or you took a lot of vacations, or you just bought new stuff, like you liked having newer cars and things like that. If you're not bringing in that kind of money anymore, you have to unlearn that lifestyle if you want to stay retired. Suddenly you may not be able to take that expensive trip, and you're going to just have to find other ways to enjoy yourself that don't cost a fortune. You may have to unlearn that the idea of happiness is not tied on a certain level of spending. And that can also affect your friend relationships too. If you are more on a frugal budget or a conservative budget, whereas maybe your friends are not, that could be something that is something that has to be taken into account. But hopefully it will not cause a problem, because friends are friends. And if they're really your friends, again, money's not supposed to matter anyway. Now, for me, I don't qualify for Social Security just yet. So I saved a bunch of money from my last job, and I'm just living off my savings until that time comes. Now, it's a lot less that I had the fortune to make back then. And so, I am putting off any trips or anything big. I'm not saying I'm never going to go out or I'm never going to do anything, but I'm putting off, the trip to Europe or whatever until at least, next year, most probably. Unless and until the NFL calls and contacts me about my art, but that's another story. Anyway, but also, if you didn't have a lot of discretionary income before, you may have to unlearn the habit of being too frugal, especially if you're lucky enough or blessed enough to have, say, a pension or some other retirement savings on top of Social Security. You know, you've worked hard and it's okay for you to treat yourself. And also, maybe I'm in a minority, but you don't need to save all of your money to pass on to future generations. You earned it, you know, spend it, go enjoy it. Now, for me, I had been working, 50, 60-hour weeks for many years on my last job. All I did pretty much was work and sleep and work and sleep. And the biggest unlearning for me is going to be actually enjoying stuff without being stressed and not feeling like, oh, I got to hurry up because, you know, I got to get back to work next week or next month or something. Having it open-ended is unreal. It's wonderful. It's like, what did I do before I had the demands of my job? You know, does that mean I'm actually going to have time to paint again? Really? You know, what friends did you have that maybe you haven't been able to catch up with because, you know, they were working and or they were retired and you were still working. Now, if you're both retired, now you can do that. So all these kind of things, you know, to keep up with. You are more than your job title, and you're definitely more than your salary. So how can you maybe make the unlearning process just a little easier? First, don't just abruptly stop if you have the opportunity. Taper down if you can, you know, work part-time if your company allows you, or work part-time in something either that you enjoy or volunteering for something that takes up a decent amount of your time that still feels kind of like a job, but you are obviously giving back now, and it will not feel like a job. It certainly won't feel like the one you just left. You know, it gives you a sense of purpose without the same stress. And then next, make a plan, but not a rigid corporate plan, a fun plan. This is your fun plan. What are you going to do with all that free time? Now, can you finally travel? You always wanted to. And believe me, I can tell you how to do it on a decent budget if you need some help. Just go to my Trisha videos. I'll put them up there where you can see my travel videos. And believe me, I know how to do it, you know, on a budget. So you can take up a new hobby, learn a new language. I keep saying I'm going to do that, and I haven't, but now I have the chance once again. And but put it on your calendar if that feels comfortable to you. It will give you something to look forward to and kind of replace, you know, your old schedule, your old work schedule, if that's something that you feel like you still need. You know, in my case, I have a OneNote because old habits die hard, right? But I've got separate sheets, each one entitled with an activity or that I want to do or something that I'm wanting to learn. So I can put notes in each page as I run into things. Not that I have to do it that moment, but it keeps them in mind. You know, I could be looking at something and it says, oh, let's talk about, you know, this particular technique in painting. I could put that in my painting thing that's something I want to try. It's something like that. That's what I'm doing. And then it's kind of like a honey-do list for yourself, if you want to think of it that way as well. One of the things that I can't wait to do is learn the ins and outs of some of the software that I have. You know, I've bought these really good softwares over the years that I can, you know, edit my videos with, or work on my art, edit my art with. And yet I can do the three things that I need it to do, but they're so much more powerful, and I know I would have a ball playing with more of that if I had the time to do it. So now I'll be able to, you know, watch their video tutorials or read their tutorials and learn about it. So that's what I'm excited about doing. And finally, and this is the most important part, please, please be patient with yourself. It took decades to learn all of those habits, and it's going to take a few more days for you to unlearn them. There'll be days when you're lost or you're bored, and that's okay too. I mean, this is part of the process. If you were now also, if you were stressed, and I don't mean just physically, but I mean mentally, if you were very stressed, if you were burnt out, it's going to take months. And I do mean that, months, for your body to recover. So, I'll probably make a video about that because that's its whole other topic. So don't rush yourself. Don't rush your body. Just rest. Take the rest that you need. This new phase of life is all about rediscovering who you are and what you love to do. It's about being in charge of your time, maybe for the first time, and for your own happiness. You deserve a good long break. You've been working for a lifetime, and it's a chance to be your own boss. So go ahead and start unlearning all these habits. Join me in unlearning, and I'll see you again soon. You take care. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.